Hey, it's me, Raika. Today we're going to have a look at the brand new Awakened hero, Maetria Duskfeather. Now, this hero wears cloth-based gear, is part of Mage class, and her primary role is to do a massive amount of damage to the enemies. So let's have a look at her skills. Her ultimate skill, Crash and Burn. When using her ultimate skill, it will deal massive amount of damage to all enemies. If an enemy is hit or is being burned by Cataclysmic Flame or Apocalyptic Flame, any shields the enemy receives over the next several seconds will be destroyed shortly after. When an enemy shield is destroyed, they will take damage equal to the shield's remaining value. If the enemy is burned by Apocalyptic Flame, this damage will also terrify them. So this is a mini stun. Level 2. For every enemy being burned by Cataclysmic Flame or Apocalyptic Flame, the damage of the skill is increased by 15%. In the level 3, when Maetria uses the skill, the enemy who has dealt the most total damage will be hit by Cataclysmic Flame and they will deal reduced damage for the next couple of seconds. So let's look at her next ability, Immortal Blaze. Maetria deals AoE damage and hurls a Cataclysmic Flame at the enemy in range of the highest attack rating. An enemy being burned by a Cataclysmic Flame continuously loses health. Cataclysmic Flames cannot be dispelled. If Cataclysmic Flame is hurled at a target that is already being burned by a Cataclysmic Flame, the target will lose energy and the flame will turn into Apocalyptic Flame for several seconds. An enemy burned by Apocalyptic Flame loses more health per second. The level 2 and 3, the duration of Apocalyptic Flame, which is the final form, is increased to 7 seconds. And level 4, while being burned by Apocalyptic Flame, an enemy's tenacity and resolve are both reduced by 30 points. And the level 5, if an enemy being burned by Cataclysmic Flame or Apocalyptic Flame is hit by another Cataclysmic Flame through the skill Immortal Blaze, the Cataclysmic Flame will spread to nearest enemy. So this is a pretty significant amount of AoE damage that this single ability can do to the enemies. Let's have a look at the next ability, From the Ashes. Every time Maetria dies, she transforms into a fireball, similar to Taylene. She will resurrect after an ally has used their active skills multiple times. So this is a total of 18 times, or all allied heroes have died. Before she resurrects, the damage caused by a Cataclysmic Flame is reduced. When she resurrects, Maetria deals damage to nearby enemies and terrifies them. Maetria cannot resurrect if Taylene is in your formation. So level 2, when Maetria resurrects, she deals more damage to nearby enemies. For every enemy, celestial or dimensional hero on the battlefield, the number of times Maetria's allies need to use their active skills for her to resurrect is reduced. The level 3, increase the maximum number of times Maetria can resurrect for every enemy, celestial or dimensional hero on the battlefield. The damage dealt by her Cataclysmic Flame is increased. So essentially, this hero will be extremely good when used against celestials or dimensional heroes, as this allows her to deal more damage and reduce the cooldowns of her various abilities. Her next ability, Smoldering Flame, which is a passive. Whenever a hero's health falls below a certain level, so this is either enemy or one of your allies, a countdown will begin. During the countdown, Maetria absorbs part of the hero's energy. At the end of the countdown, the hero dies and becomes a smoldering flame. So this is a little fireball that appears in the exact same position where the hero died. And this ability will periodically deal damage to nearby heroes. When this skill is used against a boss, the boss will instead receive significant once-off damage. The level 2, if the countdown is for an allied hero, the damage they take is reduced by 35%. If it is for an enemy, the damage is increased by 35%. And the level 3, when the countdown ends, Maetria permanently receives the hero's current attack rating and defense rating and remaining health, up to a certain limit. When the hero's smoldering flame appears, nearby enemies will be burned by Cataclysmic Flame. This effect can only trigger if the hero dies before the countdown ends. So as we can see over here, she can resurrect multiple times during battle. However, she has a similar effect to another hero called Lucretia. So essentially, she'll absorb each ally's health and attack rating, and this will significantly power up Maetria to allow her to do massive amounts of damage to the enemies. So let's have a look at her realm-wide effect. Fallen Flame. Allied heroes that are not dimensionals or celestials will be regarded by Maetria as hypogeans, and they will receive hypogean factional bonuses as in combat buffs, and receive a 25% damage bonus against enemy celestials. Affected allied heroes will also gain 10 proficiency points in battle. So this is a pretty significant buff. So what this means is if you stack Maetria with allied celestials or dimensional heroes, they'll be able to gain these specific effects. So let's have a look at how she does in battle. So an excellent place to place Maetria is on the front row. So as we can see over here, she's currently fighting this enemy target. Now she'll place a little hourglass, as we can see over here, and when the enemy dies, a little flame will appear. Now this flame is permanent for the entire duration of battle. So irrespective of whether Maetria is alive or she is dead currently in her fireball state, these little flames over here will be permanently for the entire duration of battle. This is extremely effective at dealing damage to the enemies, and if you can group the enemies up, you essentially can have multiple of these flames stacked on top of one another, dealing massive amounts of damage to the enemies. So let's have a look at her ultimate skill. So as we can see here, she leaps into the air and does a massive flame-wide AoE effect to all enemies. There we go. So let's have a look at how she does at a much higher level deficit. Now this is a 200 level deficit. Now the teams that she'll do extremely well in is any team that essentially dies very quickly, or any teams that essentially can buffer up to a certain point where when she takes all of the stats from her allied heroes, she will be able to use her ultimate and one-shot all the enemies with a single ability over here. So let's have a look at this battle over here. So when Maetria walks onto the battlefield, as we can see over here, she died immediately. However, we can see that there's a massive smoldering flame over here. Now each time an allied hero dies, or an enemy hero dies, a little flame will appear. So as we can see, there are more flames appearing on the enemy side of the battlefield. This essentially allows them to stack up, and Maetria will use her ultimate and one-shot all the enemy heroes. Now in addition to this, in this specific battle over here, if you're using any allied celestials or dimensionals, they will be able to gain these excellent effects. So as we can see over here, some of these effects include defense, energy recovery, crit rating, crit strike damage, and haste. So this is a massive amount of extra buffs that any allied celestials or dimensional heroes can acquire. So as we can see here, Maetria is dead over here. However, she's continually dealing damage to the enemies. So as we can see, a couple of our allies will die as well. There we go. Mortis over here has died, Scrake has died as well, and this is essentially powering up Maetria. So when she resurrects, she'll be able to one-shot all the enemies with her abilities. There we go. And she has one-shotted all the enemies by herself. So the minimum investment that I would recommend into Maetria is similar to any other Awakened hero, and is getting them to 1 star, 60 engravings, 30 signature item, and 9 furniture. This will fully unlock the hero's potential and allow him to deal massive amounts of damage. Now this specific hero requires as much investment as possible in order to get that one-shot essentially ability as soon as she resurrects. Now this hero will be used in a wide variety of game modes currently available in the game. Now this hero will not be able to surpass heroes such as Awakened Belinda in terms of damage. However, due to Maetria's resurrect ability and her smoldering flames, this will allow her to essentially deal damage throughout the entire duration of battle, irrespective of whether she's currently active or not active in battle. The other effects that it will allow her to be extremely powerful is due to her Lucretia based abilities, where she powers up and essentially allows her to deal massive amounts of damage in a short period of time.